Hello gang, Craig Ripley here. Welcome once again to Living Off the Slab. Today what I thought I would do is take some time to talk about a subject that should be close to all of our hearts, and that is the future of motorcycling here in the United States. So what spurred me to make these videos is a movement that is moving through the motorcycle community, if not the industry, called Give a Shift. And the Give a Shift movement was put together by a gentleman named Robert Pandya, who is the former head of PR for both Victory and Indian Motorcycle. Before I decided to do this video, I reached out to Mr. Pandya and I asked him why he decided to create this program and this movement. And what he told me is that he's been a lifelong motorcyclist for about 30 or 40 years now, and that he was very concerned when he saw the sagging sales that we've had since 2007 in the motorcycle industry, and felt that it was time to get a conversation started about some possible issues that we're facing and some possible solutions. And my goal in doing these videos is to continue that conversation, to add my voice and our voice, that is the viewers here on my channel, along with my own, so that we can give our input into this conversation about where motorcycling might be going in the future. We'll get back to the Give a Shift program here a little bit later. But for now, what I want to do is ask you guys a question, right? I mean, how many of you really know that the U.S. motorcycle industry and also around the world, right, has been on a decline since about 2007? Now, I'm sure my viewers, being very well informed, will be up on all of the latest things that are going on in the motorcycle industry. But I'm sure there's some people out there that don't know that the motorcycle industry since 2007 has been going through a sharp decline. In 2007, they had just under 1 million new motorcycles sold here in the U.S. But by 2011, that number had dropped to about 487,000, a 53% decline. Since that time, there's been some slight ups and downs, but overall, the sales volume of new motorcycles has remained pretty steady, right around that 500,000 per year mark. And at this time, nobody really sees that that's going to be changing in the foreseeable future. In fact, some estimates are that we could see another drop in new motorcycle sales of about 10 to 15% over the next 10 to 15 years. Now, while this does sound like a really big problem, it needs to be pointed out that during this time that we had this big drop in sales, we were going through the Great Recession, right? Remember that we had the housing boom and then the crash. We had the bankruptcy or near bankruptcy of GM and Chrysler, and we had the bailouts of many, many companies all around the United States. Well, motorcycling was also hit really hard by this recession, and that's when this drop of 53% really started. Now, if you all remember back before 2007, it's only been 10 years, but we have short memories, I know. But before that time, right, money was really easy to come by, right? We had these homes that were just increasing in price, and we had this slot machine, basically, that we could pull and get money out of whenever we wanted to. Right? And a lot of us, again, like myself, right, went out and used this easy money to buy the motorcycles of our dreams. Now, of course, when the recession hit, we found out that this motorcycle sales volume of near 1 million units was built on some pretty lousy foundation, right? Just like everything else in our economy, it was basically part of this huge bubble that when it burst, all that money dried up, well, so did the sales. There are those within the motorcycle industry and motorcycle community who believe that this level that we're at now is probably a more realistic level of around 500,000 new units that are going to be sold. That bubble number of near 1 million units probably wasn't realistic and wasn't sustainable. So right now, we're probably at a level that, again, is going to stay that way for quite a while. Now, I also want to point out that just because we've seen a drop in the volume of new motorcycles being sold, it doesn't mean that the motorcycle community is doing poorly and that we are losing ridership, right? In fact, according to the Department of Transportation, we have seen an increase in the number of new motorcycles being registered. In 1997, there was approximately 3.8 million motorcycles registered in the United States. Well, by 2014, which is the last time that I could find really good numbers, there was 8.4 million motorcycles registered in the U.S. We also have no real way of knowing how many used motorcycles are being sold today. Right, estimates are that for every new motorcycle that's being sold, there are 3 used motorcycles changing hands. I mean, and that makes sense, but again, we just have no way of knowing those exact numbers. So the bottom line here is that yes, the OEMs, the motorcycle manufacturers, have seen a drop in sales, right? However, it does not mean that motorcycling as a pastime, as a community, is on the decline here in the United States. In fact, there are a lot of good indications that just the opposite is true. So with that said, it does not mean that there aren't some challenges facing the motorcycle industry and the motorcycle community over the next 10 or 15 years. And we'll get back to those in a minute, but for now, what I want to talk about is some statistics on how motorcycles are used here in the United States. So first of all, I think it's important that we be honest with ourselves and understand that motorcycles here in the United States are not a primary means of transportation. They are a recreational vehicle. They are considered a toy, right? I mean, just ask your insurance company. Despite my desire to see motorcycles used more as a primary means of transportation, and despite the fact that it would reduce congestion on our freeways and it would reduce parking problems in our big cities, it just isn't likely to happen. That just isn't part of the United States culture, right? We are a car-driven society. It's often pointed out that motorcycles in other countries are used as a primary means of transportation, and that is absolutely true, even though it's not done here in the United States. In fact, Honda, the world's largest motorcycle manufacturer, sells about 18 million motorcycles every year. And most of those are under 250 cc's, right? And they are used in these other countries around the world, India, China being some of those countries, right, as a primary means of transportation. However, here in the United States, Honda only sells about 75 or 80,000 motorcycles every year out of that 18 million motorcycles they sell worldwide. And they don't bring a lot of those smaller bikes here into the U.S. for one simple reason. We just don't buy them, right? Here in the U.S., we like our bikes big and we like them loud. Now, it's often hard to get good sales numbers here in the U.S., but the ones that I found reported in other publications that come from the Motorcycle Industry Council, they state that Harley-Davidson sells about 30% of the overall motorcycles that are sold here in the United States, followed by Honda at somewhere around 14%, Yamaha at around 13%, Kawasaki around 11%, and then Suzuki around 8%. All the other manufacturers sell about 5% or less of the overall bikes that are sold here in the United States. Now, I often see these numbers misquoted, and they state that Harley-Davidson sells more than 50% of all the bikes here in the United States. And that just is not true. They sell more than 50% of the bikes in their particular category, and that is heavyweight cruisers, 600 pounds or more. However, overall, they only sell about 30% of the total motorcycles that are sold here in the U.S. So with that said, Harley-Davidson is obviously still the biggest fish in the U.S. pond, and they will probably be that way for the foreseeable future. I should point out here that even though Harley-Davidson and the big 4 Japanese manufacturers have seen falling sales here in the United States, other manufacturers like Ducati, Triumph, KTM, and BMW are all seeing increasing sales. And how are they getting these new sales, these increasing sales? Well, they are catering to a different kind of rider than Harley-Davidson does. right? And they are creating a different kind of bike. The scramblers, for example, are really popular right now. The naked sport bikes are really popular right now. So to me, this is a good sign and showing that the motorcycle industry is still growing and still evolving. All right, guys, so thanks for bearing with me on all of these statistics and things, but I think it's essential that if we're going to have this discussion, that we all really get a good handle on this so that we know what we're talking about. So next video, we are going to tackle some of those obstacles that we'll be facing here in the near future in the motorcycling community. And if you want to find out more about Give a Shift, please check out the description of this video. I'll have some links to the documents and the Give a Shift website where you can read all about it. Also, as usual, if you feel like helping to support this video channel, please subscribe. And also you can check out the description for some ways that you can help us out, like buy a t-shirt or buy a sweatshirt, and also buy from Twisted Throttle by linking through our website. We just get a little commission on it. It helps to keep these videos coming. All right, thanks everyone. We'll talk to you next time.